On the night the moon wept crimson, Maya Blackwood was born, cursed by the pack that should have protected her. They called her a bad omen, an omega unworthy of respect. For 18 years, she endured their cruelty, her spirit cracked, but never fully broken. In the shadows of the supernatural world, a king watched, waiting. He knew what the blood moon signified, and he wasn't there to save her. He was waiting to claim his weapon. On the night of her deepest humiliation, when her fated mate rejected her in front of the entire pack, the Alpha King arrived to collect her. The air in the Clearwater Pack's territory buzzed with false excitement as it was time for the annual mating ceremony. Tonight, the 18-year-olds of the pack would find their destined mates. For most, it was a night of joy. For Maya Blackwood, it felt like a death sentence. Maya turned 18 today, but she wasn't just a girl. She was the pack's outcast, their burden, their curse. Born under the blood moon, an event so rare and feared that the elders had declared her an omen from the moment she was born. Her parents' loyal pack members had died in a rogue attack when she was just 5. Alpha Victor Blackwood, the stern leader, blamed Maya for the death of his closest allies, claiming her existence weakened the pack's defenses. From that day forward, Maya was cast down to Omega. But she wasn't just any Omega, she was the Omega. She cooked, cleaned, mended, and became the target of every misplaced frustration. Maya lived in a cold, damp room in the cellar, separated from the others. Her only secret, her only flickering hope was Gavin Steele, the Alpha's son. They'd once been childhood friends before Gavin's father forbade him from associating with the curse. Yet Maya had caught him looking at her, and there had been something in his gaze. Pity-guilt. She foolishly convinced herself it was longing. The moon goddess couldn't be that cruel. Could she? To pair her with someone who hated her. She scrubbed the last pot from the feast, her hands raw. Lydia Stone, the pack's head cook, snapped at her. "You're late. You'll miss the rejection if you don't hurry. Not the mating, the rejection." They all assumed it. Maya wiped her hands on her worn apron. She wore the only dress she owned, a faded gray one passed down 3 times. No new dress allowed for the ceremony. Her silver blonde hair, usually tied back, fell in dull waves, her only small vanity. She stepped into the clearing just as the full moon, round and white, crested the trees. The pack had gathered. Alpha Victor stood on the raised platform, Gavin beside him. Gavin looked magnificent, tall, muscular, with his father's jet-black hair and piercing blue eyes. He was the future of the pack. "We welcome the new blood," Alpha Victor boomed, his voice loud and commanding. The pack cheered. One by one, the other 18-year-olds stepped forward. A girl named Zara Moon found her mate in a pack warrior, and they embraced. Jackson Rivers found his in Lydia's daughter, and the crowd erupted in joyful tears. Then only Maya remained. "Maya Blackwood Alpha," Victor announced. The name fell from his lips like poison, and the clearing went silent. Maya's heart hammered in her chest so violently, it felt as though it might break free. She kept her eyes cast downward, walking the path of shame. Hundreds of eyes bore into her, each one filled with scorn. She stopped in front of Gavin. She forced herself to look up. His icy blue eyes mirrored the chill of a winter lake. There was no pity, no guilt, only disdain. And then she felt it. A faint, shimmering pull, a scent of pine and winter air. Him. The moon goddess had been that cruel. He was her mate. She saw the recognition in his eyes. The pull was undeniable. In that brief moment, she saw the choice he made. He chose power status and his father. Gavin Steele smiled a cruel, sharp smile that shattered the last of Maya's hope. "I, Gavin Steele, future alpha of the Clearwater Pack," he declared, his voice booming with authority. "I am blessed by the moon goddess with my true mate." A few gasps filled the air. Maybe he would accept her. Gavin's smile only grew. "But the goddess sometimes makes mistakes. She tests us. She sends us burdens to cast off." He looked directly at Maya, a cold smile playing on his lips. ChatGPT Denai, his voice oozing with disdain. I Gavin Steele, he bellowed, hereby reject you, Maya Blackwood, the curse of the blood moon, as my mate, as my lunar. The words hit her like a physical blow. The bond that had only just begun to form between them shattered instantly. The pain was excruciating. A white-hot knife drove deep into her soul. She cried out, clutching her chest as she collapsed to her knees. The pack's laughter filled the air. They pointed at her. This was the spectacle they'd been waiting for. Maya stammered, barely able to speak. The formal words of acceptance or denial caught in her throat. She was supposed to accept the rejection. Speak, girl, Victor Blackwood ordered. Maya Blackwood, she forced out. She couldn't finish the sentence. The pain was overwhelming. Then a new scent pierced the air. It wasn't the familiar scent of pine or the earthy musk of the pack. It was the scent of ozone smoke, an ancient power so overwhelming that it smothered everything else. The laughter faltered and died. The wind stopped. Every wolf in the clearing from Alpha Victor down suddenly dropped to the ground in a terrified, submissive crouch. Their wolves compelled them to their knees. Maya, already on the ground, was the only one to see him emerge from the shadows. He was impossibly tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black tactical gear that swallowed the moonlight. His presence was suffocating like a crushing weight, his eyes silver burning with an intensity that felt like it was piercing into her very soul. He wasn't just an alpha. This was a force of power Maya couldn't comprehend. The man walked past the cowering Alpha Victor without sparing him a glance. He stopped a foot in front of Maya, his shadow falling over her. He glanced at the whimpering Gavin. Then his silver gaze locked onto Maya. He sniffed the air, a muscle in his jaw twitching. He rejected you. The man said, his voice a low, menacing growl. Maya could barely nod, tears streaming down her face. Good, he said, his tone final. It simplifies things. Victor, finding some courage, spoke from the ground. Who are you? This is Clearwater Pack territory. You have no right here. The stranger turned his head, but didn't speak. He just stared. And in that gaze, Victor saw something he hadn't expected: the abyss. I am Darius Vale. The man spoke, his voice dropping to a deep growl. King Darius Vale, the Alpha King. And this... He looked around at the pack. This is my territory now. Darius turned back to Maya, his cold eyes scanning her as she kneeled, broken, dressed in rags. There was no kindness in his gaze, no sympathy, just a terrifying, possessive look. The prophecy is true, he whispered, more to himself than to her. Born of the blood moon. He crouched in front of her, grabbing her chin and forcing her to meet his gaze. His silver eyes were mesmerizing. You are Maya Blackwood, he commanded, not asking. Yes, she whispered, barely able to breathe. You are done here, he said, standing and pulling her to her feet with ease as if she weighed nothing. Without another word, he began to walk away, dragging her along behind him. Wait, you can't, Gavin suddenly shouted, his voice trembling with misplaced courage. She's Pack. She's a curse, but she's our curse. Darius stopped, but didn't turn around. She was never yours. He glanced back at Gavin, his eyes flashing a dangerous red. She was only ever mine. I was just waiting. You rejected the one thing that could have saved your pathetic pack, he added coldly. You are weak, and you will die weak. Darius tugged Maya along, leading her away. She stumbled after him, her mind numb, lost in a sea of pain, rejection, and terror. She didn't look back at the pack who had tormented her. She only looked at the back of the king who had claimed her. She had escaped her prison only to be captured by a tyrant. The journey felt like a blur. King Darius Vale didn't speak to her again. He had arrived with a group of 20 elite warriors, the Lycion Guard. They emerged from the shadows of the forest like wolves themselves, moving with eerie, terrifying precision. Maya Blackwood was placed on a horse too weak from the pain of rejection to even hold herself up. A man with a scarred face and kind eyes named Rex Carter rode with her. His presence was a steady, comforting weight at her back. He was the only one to show her a flicker of kindness, offering her a waterskin and a thick fur cloak to ward off the chill. Darius Vale rode at the head of the column, a living shadow on a massive black warhorse. He never looked back. They traveled relentlessly for 2 days, cutting through dense ancient forests and bypassing roads that separated territories. Maya learned that the Clearwater Pack was located in a remote corner of what used to be Washington State. Darius's territory, the Vale Domain, stretched across nearly all of Canada and the northern United States. Her pack was just a tiny irrelevant speck in his vast kingdom. The Vale Citadel wasn't a pack house. It was a fortress rising from the heart of a mountain, an imposing structure of dark stone and reinforced glass, seamlessly blending with the granite cliffs. Waterfalls cascaded from its sides, adding to the stark beauty of the place. Guards armed with both modern weapons and ancient-looking spears patrolled the battlements. Maya was taken not to a dungeon, but to a suite of rooms larger than the entire Clearwater Pack house. The room had a massive fireplace, a bed with silk sheets, a marble bathroom, and a balcony that overlooked a breathtaking valley that made her heart ache. It was a cage, just a much prettier one. For 3 days, she was left alone except for a few silent servants who brought her food, new clothes, luxurious velvet and cashmere dresses, and a physician who examined her. Dr. Quinn Hale, a stern woman, took vials of her blood, checked her vitals, and made notes without answering any of Maya's questions. "Am I a prisoner?" Maya finally asked. Dr. Hale paused, her pen hovering. "You are a guest of the king, a very important guest. Why did he take me? The king does not explain his reasons to me. He only expects results." She packed her things, nodding. "Eat. You are severely malnourished." On the 4th day, terror and confusion began to turn into anger. Maya's strength returned, her body healing. The pain from the rejection faded to a dull, hollow ache replaced by the weight of the king's silent, ever-present power. She found him in a vast 2-story library. He stood before a wall map, his back to her. "You," he said, his voice deep and calm, never turning. "Feeling better?" Maya clenched her fists to stop them from shaking. "You knew I was here. I know everything that happens in my fortress," Darius replied finally, turning to face her. In the firelight, he seemed even more intimidating than when she had seen him in the forest. His silver eyes appraised her. "The dress suits you. Why am I here?" Maya demanded, her voice trembling with frustration. "Am I your prisoner? Are you going to kill me?" A shadow of a smile touched his lips. It wasn't kind. "If I wanted you dead, Maya Blackwood, you would have died in that clearing. Then what do you want?" She pressed, her voice breaking. "You said you were waiting. Waiting for what?" He stepped closer, and the air between them thickened. "You ask a lot of questions for someone who was just days ago scrubbing floors. And you're avoiding them," she shot back, surprising herself with her boldness. "You tore me from my home, a home that spat on you. A mate who rejected you." Darius scoffed, his voice bitter. "Don't pretend I took you from paradise. I took you from a garbage heap." The sting of the truth hit her. "It doesn't matter," she whispered. "You dragged me here, took my blood and locked me in a room. I have a right to know why." Darius studied her, his gaze piercing. "You are here because of what you are." Maya blinked, confusion spreading. "I'm a curse. That's what they said." "They were fools," he snapped. "The blood moon isn't a curse. It's a key, a very rare, very powerful key. And I am here to use it." His cold, pragmatic tone sent a chill through her. "Use me. Use me for what?" "That is my concern." He turned back to his map. "You will remain here. You will be trained. You will be fed and protected. In return, you will do exactly as I say. Your new life, Maya, is one of obedience." "And if I refuse," she demanded, her voice rising, He glanced over his shoulder, his silver eyes turning cold. Then you will find that the walls of this pretty room are far stronger than you think. Rex will bring you to the training hall tomorrow at dawn. Do not be late. Without another word, he dismissed her. Maya stood there, her body trembling with rage. He hadn't saved her. He had just upgraded her prison. He was no different from Alpha Victor, only more powerful. As she turned to leave, a new voice, smooth as silk and cutting like glass, echoed from the doorway. So this is it. A woman stood there. She was the most striking creature Maya had ever seen, tall with hair as black as polished stone, and eyes a piercing violet. Her gown, dark red, clung to her flawless figure. She radiated power, but it was cold ancient, stick to the ancient power. Celine Nightshade. Darius's voice softened just a bit. Theron, darling. Celine purred, gliding into the room. She completely ignored Maya, walking straight to Darius and placing a hand on his chest. I came as soon as I heard. You actually went and collected the omen? It was necessary, Darius replied, his posture stiff. Celine finally glanced at Maya, her violet eyes raking over her from head to toe. The look was pure, unfiltered contempt. This is the one. Celine laughed, a sound like breaking glass. This is the creature from the prophecy, pathetic. A half-starved omega from some backwater pack. She smells of rejection, Celine added with a sneer. Maya flinched. She is what the prophecy demanded, Darius said flatly, his eyes not leaving Celine. Celine's smile twisted into something cruel. And what of our arrangement, Darius? What of our alliance? The Silver Fang pack will not be pleased that you've set aside our bond for this. Your pack will fall in line, Celine, just like you will. Darius answered, his voice cool. Will I? Celine traced a finger down his shirt. You and I were meant to rule. We share the same blood, the same power. This thing will be our doom. The prophecy is a lie, she hissed. Darius's patience snapped. That's enough. Celine locked eyes with him, her violet gaze challenging. Is it? You've brought a ticking bomb into our home, my king, and when it explodes, I'll be the one to clean up the mess. She turned and glided out, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and icy venom. Maya was left standing in the library, caught between a cold, calculating king and his jealous, powerful consort. One thing was clear. She hadn't just been brought to a fortress. She had been thrown into a snake pit. Maya's new life began at dawn. Rex, the scarred beta who had shown her kindness, arrived at her door. He was all business. The king expects you, he said, his voice low and gravelly. Rex was built like a bear, his face kind, but marred by the web of scars on his left eye. Expects me to do what? Obey, Maya retorted, still feeling the sting of the night before. Rex sighed. He expects you to survive, miss. Which right now means training. The training hall was a massive cavern beneath the citadel. It was filled with weapons, an obstacle course, and a dozen warriors twice her size. I'm an omega, Maya said, her stomach turning. I don't fight. You will, Rex said firmly. The king commands it. For the next 2 weeks, Maya was pushed to her absolute limits. She ran until her lungs burned, holding a knife to block punches. She was a terrible student. Her wolf, a small, timid thing, had been suppressed for so long that it offered her no strength. She was clumsy, weak, and frustrated, but she wasn't a quitter. For every time she was knocked down, she got back up. The warriors at first mocked her, but Rex was patient, firm. You're fighting with your body, he said one afternoon as Maya nursed a bruised wrist. You're weak. Your body will always fail you. Stop thinking like a human, he urged. I don't know how, Maya cried, frustrated. Your wolf isn't just an animal inside you, Maya, Rex said gently. It's you. You've been taught to hate your blood, to fear your nature. The blood moon, he continued softly. It's not a curse. It's an amplifier. It feels like a curse, Maya whispered, looking down. Stop letting them define you. Rex said, his voice hardening. Not Alpha Victor, not Celine Minette Nightshade, not even Darius. Define yourself. It was the first real piece of advice anyone had ever given her. Her interactions with Darius remained cold, distant, and non-existent. He hadn't saved her. He had simply upgraded her prison. He was no different from Alpha Victor, just more powerful. As she turned to leave, a new voice, smooth as silk, yet cutting like glass, echoed from the doorway. So this is it. A woman stood there. She was the most striking creature Maya had ever seen, tall with hair as black as polished stone, and eyes that pierced like violet daggers. Her dark red gown clung to her perfect form, exuding an aura of power, but it was an ancient cold power. Celine Nightshade. Darius's voice softened just a touch. Theron, darling. Celine purred, gliding into the room, completely ignoring Maya as she walked straight to him, placing a hand on his chest. I came as soon as I heard. You actually went and collected the omen. It was necessary, Darius replied stiffly, his body language rigid. Celine finally acknowledged Maya, her violet eyes sweeping over her with pure disdain. This is the one. Celine laughed, a sound like glass shattering. This is the creature from the prophecy pathetic, a half-starved Omega from a backwater pack. She reeks of rejection. Celine hissed, her eyes glittering. Maya flinched. She is what the prophecy demanded, Darius said flatly, his voice betraying no emotion. Celine's smile turned into a sneer. And what about our arrangement, Darius? What about our alliance? The Silver Fang Pack will not be pleased that you've discarded our binding for this. Your pack will fall in line, Celine, just as you will. Darius answered, his tone unwavering. Will I? Celine traced a finger down his shirt. You and I were meant to rule. We are of the same blood, the same power. This thing will be the end of us. The prophecy is a lie, she spat. Darius's patience snapped. That's enough. Celine held his gaze, her eyes flashing with defiance. Is it? You've brought a ticking time bomb into our home, my king. And when it explodes, I'll be the one to clean up the mess. She turned and stormed out, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and cold, bitter anger. Maya stood there, caught between a king who was both cold and calculating, and his jealous, venomous consort. One thing was clear. She hadn't been brought to a fortress, she had been thrown into a snake pit. Maya's new life began at dawn. Rex, the scarred beta, who had shown her kindness, arrived at her door, all business. The king expects you, he said, his gravelly voice commanding. Rex was built like a bear with a gentle face that seemed at odds with the web of scars across his left eye. Expects me to do what, obey? Maya retorted, still stinging from the night before. Rex sighed. He expects you to survive, miss, which right now means training. The training hall was a massive cavern beneath the citadel, filled with weapons, an obstacle course, and a dozen warriors, twice her size. I'm an Omega, Maya said, her stomach twisting. I don't fight. You will, Rex replied firmly. The king commands it. For the next 2 weeks, Maya was pushed to her limits. She ran until her lungs burned, holding a knife to block punches. She was terrible at it. Her wolf, a small, timid thing, had been suppressed for so long that it offered her no strength. She was clumsy, weak, and frustrated, but she didn't quit. Every time she was knocked down, she got back up. The warriors at first mocked her, but Rex was patient, steady. You're fighting with your body, he told her one afternoon as she nursed a bruised wrist. You're weak. Your body will always fail you. Stop thinking like a human, he added. I don't know how, Maya cried, the frustration choking her. Your wolf isn't just an animal inside you, Maya, Rex said gently. It's you. You've been taught to hate your blood, to fear your nature. The blood moon, he continued, his voice low. It's not a curse. It's an amplifier. It feels like a curse. Maya whispered, her voice faltering. Stop letting them define you. Rex urged, his voice firm. Not Alpha Victor, not Celine Nightshade, not even Darius. Define yourself. It was the first real advice anyone had ever given her. Her interactions with Darius remained distant, cold, and sparse. He slammed open a heavy iron door. Rex, Darius shouted. Dr. Quinn, to the West Wing. He dragged Maya into a part of the fortress that was far from beautiful. It was a hospital ward, and it was full of werewolves. But something was wrong. These wolves were different. They were emaciated, their skin a sickly gray. They were chained to their beds, eyes glowing with a feral, mindless madness. They snarled, snapping at the air. Their wolves were in complete control, but utterly insane. What is this? Maya whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. This, Darius said, his voice heavy with sorrow. A deep, agonizing pain laced his words. Is the Wither. Maya stared in horror at the scene around her. The West Wing was a place of suffering, a place where pain lingered thick in the air. The smell of sickness and despair was so strong it was hard to breathe. The Wither, Maya asked, her voice trembling as she turned to Darius. His face was a mask of grief and fury. It started 5 years ago, he said. A plague. It attacks the bond between us and our wolves. For some, the bond just dissolves. They become human, trapped in their own skin, unable to shift. And they die within a month. Darius pointed to a man in the corner, rocking back and forth, tears streaming down his face. Joseph. He was my top strategist. Now he doesn't even remember his own name. Maya looked at a woman who was biting at the iron restraints on her bed. And the others? That's the other way it goes, Darius said grimly. The bond doesn't break. It corrupts. The wolf takes over and the human mind is erased. They become this mindless, feral. They're rabid, driven by a hunger they can't control. They attack anything, packmate, child. It doesn't matter. Dr. Quinn Hale stood nearby, injecting a sedative into the woman's arm. We can only manage the symptoms, my king. We can't stop the spread. It's spreading, Maya asked, her heart racing. Like wildfire, Darius said in a low voice. It's airborne or in the water or passed by blood. We don't know. All we know is it's killing us. Our birth rates have plummeted. Of the few children born, half are stillborn. My people, our people, Maya, are dying. We are facing extinction. He turned and led her down the hall to a private room. Inside, a young woman, barely older than Maya, lay in bed staring blankly at the ceiling. She was beautiful, with Darius's silver eyes and black hair, but her body was nothing but skin and bone. This is my sister, Darius's voice cracked for the first time. Raven. She's been like this for 6 months. Her wolf is gone. She's just fading. He knelt by the bed, taking his sister's fragile hand. I am the king. I have all this power. I rule half a continent, and I can't save the person I love most. Maya finally understood. The coldness, the distance, the desperation, it wasn't cruelty. It was the crushing weight of a dying world. The prophecy. Maya whispered, the pieces clicking into place. The prophecy of the blood moon. Darius confirmed, his voice heavy. He stood leading her out of the ward and back into the sterile hall. It's an old text dismissed as folklore for centuries, until the Wither. When the wolf sickens and the line of kings fades, the moon shall weep crimson. From this blood shall rise the silver heart, mate to the king, and her light shall purify the plague, restoring the balance. The silver heart, Maya whispered. Me, you. Born of the blood moon, fated mate to the king. You, Maya, are the key. You are the cure, and a cold dread settled over her, heavier than Selena's hatred or Gavin's rejection. What does purify the plague mean? Darius's face was unreadable. Dr. Quinn has been studying the prophecy in your blood since you arrived. Maya's blood ran cold. You think my blood is the cure? That's why you've been protecting me. She whispered, the weight of it sinking in. That's why I'm so valuable. Darius couldn't meet her gaze, his silence confirming her fears. No, Maya said, backing away, shaking her head. I'm not a sacrifice. No, you brought me here to bleed me dry, to drain me. Maya shouted, her voice trembling with fury. You're a monster. I am a king. Darius roared, grabbing her. His control snapped. I am a king responsible for millions of lives. Do you think I haven't thought this through? Do you think I don't know what I'm asking? His voice was a growl, but his anger faltered as he held her tightly. You're not asking. You're demanding? You're a tyrant just like Victor. Maya shot back, her chest heaving. Don't compare me to that insect. Darius snarled, shaking her. He rules a pile of dirt. I rule an empire, and that empire is collapsing. If I have to sacrifice one girl, just one, to save my entire race, I will do it. Even if she's your mate. Maya screamed, her voice cracking as the words hung in the air between them. It felt like a grenade with the pin pulled. Darius froze. His grip on her loosened, and the fury in his eyes shifted to raw, agonizing pain. He looked at her, really looked at her. And in that moment, Maya saw the truth. The mate bond. It had always been there. It had been there from the clearing. That pull she had felt toward Gavin. It was nothing, just a pale imitation. This was different. This was a steel cable vibrating with a power that hummed in her bones. He had felt it too from the moment he laid eyes on her. All this time, Maya whispered, her heart breaking all over again. You felt it. And you hid it. You pretended. Pretended. Darius's voice was low, a hoarse whisper. I have fought it. Every second, every day. The fates are cruel. To send me my fated mate. As a tool, as a resource. He backed away, running a hand through his hair. For the first time, he didn't look like a king. He looked like a man torn in two. I tried to keep my distance. I thought if I let the bond settle, I wouldn't have the strength to do what needed to be done. Which is what? Maya asked, her voice trembling. Kill me. The prophecy is unclear. Darius shot back. Her light shall purify. It may mean a ritual. It may mean an infusion of your blood, or it may mean the ultimate sacrifice. I don't know, and you were going to make that choice for me. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I am the king, Darius said, his voice hollow. You are a coward. Maya whispered, her voice soft but strong. Darius flinched as if she had struck him. You're afraid. She continued, her fear now replaced with a cold, clear anger. You're afraid to let yourself feel, because if you did, you'd be the monster. And it's so much easier to be the king, isn't it? Before Darius could respond, a guard Rex sprinted down the hall, his face grim. My king, Rex panted. The southern gates. There's a delegation. They're claiming sanctuary. I'm not seeing any delegations, Darius snapped, turning away. My king, it's the Clearwater Pack, Rex said. Maya's blood ran cold. What? Darius's voice was cold, distant. It's Alpha Victor Blackwood and his son. Rex glanced at Maya with pity. Their entire territory was overrun by the withered. They're the only survivors. The great hall of the citadel was silent. Alpha Victor Blackwood and his son Gavin knelt on the floor. They were mere shadows of the men they once were. Their clothes were torn, covered in dirt and dried blood. Their faces were hollow, gaunt from starvation, their eyes wide with terror. The arrogance that had once defined them was gone, replaced by a desperate animalistic fear. Darius sat on his high-backed throne, his face as cold as stone. Maya stood in the shadows of a side alcove, Rex beside her. She had insisted on being there. "You dare!" Darius's voice was a low growl. "To come to my gates begging for scraps after what you did." "Mercy, my king." Victor wept, pressing his forehead to the cold stone floor. "They came the withered from the east. So many. We didn't stand a chance. They tore our pack apart. We barely escaped." "You abandoned your pack," Darius stated, his voice icy. We led them to safety," Gavin interjected, his voice cracking. "Liar," Darius said simply, his voice laced with venom. "I can smell the cowardice on you. You ran. You sacrificed your own people to save your own skin." Gavin and Victor fell silent. It was the truth. "And now you come here," Darius continued, his eyes darkening, "to the mate you rejected and humiliated. You come to her new home seeking protection." Gavin's head snapped up. He finally saw Maya standing in the shadows. Her hair was clean, her clothes were rich, and she stood beside the king's beta. She wasn't the Omega he had rejected. She was a lady. Gavin's face twisted, not with regret, but with a bitter new jealousy. "You," he spat. "This is your fault. The withered never came until after you left. You brought this on us. You're a curse." Before the words were even fully out of his mouth, Darius was out of his chair. He crossed the 30-foot distance in a blur, his hand closing around Gavin's throat, slamming him against a stone pillar. The air cracked as Gavin's head collided with the wall. "Speak her name again." Darius whispered, his voice vibrating with lethal power. "And I will tear your tongue from your mouth." He held Gavin there, the younger alpha gasping, his feet dangling off the ground. "My king, please," Victor begged. Darius's silver eyes burned with rage. He saw the rejection, the humiliation, and the pain Gavin had caused. "Rex," Darius said, his voice dangerously calm. "Take them to the cells." "The cells?" my king, Rex asked, surprised. "They are not refugees. They are not guests. They are prisoners. They will await my judgment." Darius dropped Gavin to the floor. Rex and the guards seized them, dragging them away. Victor's begging for mercy faded as the door slammed shut behind them, leaving the hall eerily silent. "Thank you," Maya said, stepping out of the shadows. Darius didn't look at her. "I did not do it for you. I did it for the law." He challenged the king's mate, even a rejected one. "You called me your mate," Maya said quietly. "A slip of the tongue," he said, walking back to his throne, but his hands were shaking. Later that night, Maya couldn't sleep. Her thoughts were too loud. She went to the library determined to find answers. She pulled every book she could find on the blood moon prophecies and the wither. She found a passage in a dusty leather-bound book. The blood moon child is not a vessel of sacrifice, but a beacon of life. The silver heart's power is not in her blood, but in her spirit. She does not cure the wither. She overwhelms it. She is the amplifier of the bond, the song that reminds the wolf of the man. "The song," Maya whispered, her mind racing. "Not a sacrifice, a beacon." She was so absorbed in her discovery that she didn't hear the footsteps. "More research, Your Majesty," Maya jumped. Celine stood in the doorway, her cruel smile spreading. "What do you want?" Maya asked, clutching the book to her chest. "I want what's best for our people," Celine said, gliding closer. "I see you've met our new guests. They're prisoners." For now Celine mused, a mocking glint in her eyes. "But they are alphas, and they hate you. That makes them interesting." "Get out," Maya demanded. "Oh, I'm terrified," Celine mocked. "Listen to me, little mouse. I just paid a visit to our prisoners. Gavin Steele is malleable. He's furious that you've stolen his place, that you, the curse, are living in a palace while he's locked in a cell. Maya's heart sank. What did you do? I merely suggested a new path for him, Celine purred. See, the king is compromised. He's letting his affection for you cloud his judgment. He's forgotten the true path to our survival. And what path is that? Maya stepped back, a chill running down her spine. Purity. Celine said, her violet eyes glowing with feverish fanaticism. The wither is not a plague, girl. It's a culling. It's the moon goddess's way of burning away the weak, the half-bloods, the deluded lines. My pack, the Silver Fangs, have remained pure for 1,000 years. We welcome this cleansing. Maya stared in horror. You're insane. People are dying. The weak are dying, so the strong can thrive. And your prophecy, she sneered, is a lie, a dilution. You're not a cure. You're the final symptom of the disease. You want to remind the wolf of the man you would save the weak. You would poison our bloodlines with this compassion. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. So all this time your pack. You've been working against Darius. Darius is a fool, a romantic. He sees a dying sister and he wants a magic cure. I see an opportunity to rebuild our race stronger than before. But to do that, I need to remove the false cure. Celine lunged, but Maya wasn't the same girl she was in the library. She had been training. She dodged, grabbing a heavy book and swinging it with all her might, hitting Celine squarely in the temple. Celine let out a roar, her human facade crumbling, her fangs descending like a predator ready to strike. Maya didn't wait. She screamed Rex and bolted. She sprinted down the hall, her footsteps echoing in the vast silence of the citadel, with Celine hot on her heels. You can't escape me, Omega. Celine's voice was like a venomous hiss. Maya burst into the great hall just as Rex and 2 guards ran in. She's insane, Maya shouted. She's working with the prisoners. She wants the Wither to win. Celine stopped, regaining her composure instantly. She smoothed her hair, cold and collected. The girl is hysterical, Celine said, her voice dripping with false concern. She attacked me. She pointed to the small bruise on her temple, an almost theatrical gesture. The guards exchanged confused glances. Rex looked between Maya and Celine, his jaw tight. Lady Celine, Rex said, the king will want to speak. The king is busy, Celine snapped. This is a matter between me and this child. I'll handle it. No, a new voice interrupted. Gavin Steele stood in the entryway, flanked by 2 of Celine's Silver Fang guards. He held a silver knife in his hand, his expression twisted with anger. Victor Blackwood followed behind him, unlocking the cells of the withered. The mad, snarling wolves started streaming into the hall. Chaos erupted. What have you done? Rex roared, his eyes blazing. He shifted into his massive brown wolf, leaping to intercept the withered. A coup, Celine said, smiling coldly. Darius is weak. He must be removed. Gavin, my dear Celine, purred, turning to him. Kill the Omega. Kill the king's mate, and you'll have your revenge. I'll make you alpha of a new pure pack. Gavin's eyes locked onto Maya, burning with a twisted, obsessive hatred. You took everything from me, he whispered, voice thick with rage. My pack, my future, my honor. Now I'll take your life. He lunged at Maya, the silver knife, flashing through the air. No! The command was deafening like a sonic boom. Darius Vale landed in the center of the hall, leaping from the balcony above. In midair, he shifted. His form exploded from man to beast. He wasn't just any wolf. He was a monster. He was easily twice the size of Rex's wolf, a dire wolf with pure midnight black fur and eyes like cold silver fire. He was the embodiment of ancient royal power. He landed between Gavin and Maya, letting out a deafening roar that shook the citadel's very foundations. Gavin froze, his bravado evaporating. Darius didn't even look at him. With one massive swipe of his paw, he sent Gavin flying across the hall, crashing into a pillar, and he slumped unconscious. Maya run, Darius's voice rang through her mind, a telepathic command that was impossible to ignore. But Maya was frozen in place. The hall was chaos. Rex and the loyal guards were fighting desperately against the withered, who fought with wild, mindless ferocity. But Celine was fighting Darius. She too had shifted. Her wolf was sleek and silver, fast and vicious. She and her 2 silver fang guards were circling Darius, darting in with claws and fangs aimed at his throat, all while he tried to protect Maya and fight off of the withered at the same time. "She's right, Darius." Celine's voice snarled in Maya's head, her telepathic voice echoing like a cold wind. "She's your weakness. You're dying for an Omega." Darius roared, grabbing one of the silver fang guards and throwing him across the room with a sickening crack, snapping the guard's neck. But as he did, Celine slashed his flank, the deep wound making him howl in pain. Maya's training kicked in. Define yourself. She wasn't a fighter. She wasn't a queen, but she was the key, the song that reminded the wolf of the man. "Get out of here," Rex yelled. His voice strained as he wrestled a withered wolf to the ground. "Get to the bunker." "No," Maya said, her gaze shifting between Darius bleeding and fighting and Rex outnumbered. She could see the madness in the eyes of the withered, and she knew what she had to do. She ran. Not away. Up. She scrambled up the grand staircase toward the balcony. Maya. No, Darius's roar shook the walls, but she couldn't stop now. "Stop her," Celine shrieked, realizing what Maya was doing. Maya reached the balcony, and there, shining through the massive glass dome, was the full moon. But it wasn't just any moon. It was turning a pale, sickly shade of red. A lunar eclipse, a blood moon, the night of her birth. The prophecy. Maya whispered, her voice trembling. "It's not just me. It's the time." She stood in the center of the moonlight, the sounds of battle fading as if the world had paused. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the fear, the sting of rejection, the pain that had followed her for so long. But then she felt him, Darius, his pain, his desperation, the burden of his crown, and beneath it all, the silent burning love he was too afraid to admit. She let it all flood her, the depth of his sorrow, the rawness of his love. She took it all in, and then she opened her mouth, and she sang. It wasn't a song of words. It was a howl, but not the howl of a wolf. It was the howl of a soul, a note of pure, concentrated power, a sound that resonated with perfect silver-toned harmony. It was the silver heart. The sound ripped through the chaos, slicing the tension in the air. Below, the fighting stopped. The withered wolves froze in place, their heads tilting as the snarling ceased. In their glowing feral eyes, a spark of sanity returned. They started to whimper, the madness receding, the bond being restored. Darius, in his massive wolf form, stared up at her, his silver eyes wide with awe. Maya Blackwood, the Omega. The curse was bathed in the crimson light of the blood moon, and she was radiant. She was saving them. No, Celine's scream was pure venom. I will not be undone by a song. The withered were subdued. But Celine was not. She abandoned her fight with Darius, leaping up the stairs, shifting back into her human form. Her claws remained deadly, and in her hand she gripped the silver knife Gavin had dropped. "If I can't have him, no one will..." Celine shrieked. Darius was too far away. Rex was pinned. Maya stopped singing, her eyes flying open. Celine was on her in an instant, the knife raised high. Maya didn't flinch. She didn't scream. She stared Celine down, her own eyes now glowing with a soft silver light. "You're wrong," Maya said, her voice steady. "It's not about purity. It's about connection." Celine hesitated, confused by Maya's lack of fear. That hesitation was all Darius needed. A black-furred missile hit Celine from the side, knocking her away from Maya. It was Darius. He had shifted back into his human form, naked, bloodied, but moving with terrifying speed. He had taken the brunt of the tackle, rolling to protect Maya. But Celine, a fanatic, wasn't finished. As they rolled, she drove the silver knife down, aiming for Darius. Darius roared, but it wasn't the roar of victory. Maya screamed. Darius lay on his back, his arm shielding her, the hilt of the silver knife protruding from his shoulder just below the collarbone. The silver burned through his flesh. It was a mortal wound for a werewolf. Celine scrambled back, her eyes wide, a triumphant, crazed smile on her face. He dies. You die. The weak die. It is the law. No, Maya whispered, crawling to Darius's side. He was gasping, the silver poisoning his system. Darius, no, she cried, her voice cracking. Run. He coughed, blood on his lips. I'm not running, she said, her voice firm despite the panic in her chest. She looked at the wound, the black veins of silver already spreading. She knew what she had to do. The prophecy wasn't just a song. She placed her hands over the wound. What? What are you doing? Darius gasped. It's silver. You'll be burned. You said I was the key. Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. You said I was a weapon. You were wrong, she added softly. I'm a healer. She closed her eyes and pushed. But she didn't push power. She pushed love. She pushed her bond. She pushed her own life force, her silver heart song, directly into his wound. She screamed as the silver burned her hands, the flesh sizzling. But she didn't let go. The silver knife began to glow white hot, and then, with a crack, it shattered the silver, turning to dust. The black veins on Darius's chest slowly receded. The wound, once deep and fatal, began stitching itself closed beneath her palms, leaving only fresh pink skin. Darius gasped, his silver eyes clearing, and when he looked at her, it was with an expression of raw, unfiltered love. You saved me, he whispered, his voice filled with wonder. We saved each other. Maya panted, her hands still smoking from the effort. A slow clap echoed from the stairs, drawing their attention. How touching, Celine, mocked her voice, dripping with venom. But you're weak and I'm still standing. She stalked toward them with a predator's grace. So am I. Gavin Steele's voice rang out behind Celine. His head was bleeding, but he was alive. He looked at the withered wolves who were now sitting silently, confused, but no longer snarling. He turned his gaze to his father, huddled by the door, and then to Darius, who was now healed. His eyes then locked onto Maya, who had just saved the king. In that moment, something shifted inside him. You, Gavin said, his voice trembling with a cold fury. You used me. You told me she was the curse, but it was you. You let them in. You let our pack die. She's a worthless Omega, Celine spat, but Gavin's anger burned too hot. No, she's a queen, he declared, his voice gaining strength. As Celine lunged at him, Gavin did what he should have done all along. He defended his lunar. With a surge of power, he tackled Celine, and this time he didn't stop. They rolled together, crashing over the balcony railing. Two bodies, one silver, one dark, fell with a sickening crash to the stone floor below. The hall went deathly silent. Gavin was dead. Celine was dead. Maya, clutching her burned hands, stared in shock. Gavin Steele, the man who had rejected her, the man who had once stood against her, had died protecting her. The first light of dawn broke over the citadel, its golden rays flooding the hall, casting long shadows over the astonished faces of the withered. They were no longer mindless creatures. They were just wolves, confused, naked, and human again. Men and women staring at their hands, weeping with relief. Maya's song had done it. It had re-anchored their souls. Victor Blackwood was taken into custody, a broken, weeping man. Rex, with his arm in a sling, directed the guards with quiet authority. His voice held a deep respect as he looked at Maya. Darius, now dressed in simple black trousers, walked toward her. She was sitting on the stairs, her hands wrapped in linen, her body trembling with exhaustion. He didn't kneel. Instead, he sat on the step below her, so they were eye to eye. For a long time he said nothing, his gaze taking her in, as if seeing her for the first time. "Your hands," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "They'll heal." Maya whispered, her voice tired. "I'm a healer, I guess." "You are a miracle," he said, his voice heavy with awe. He gently took her bandaged hand in his. "Maya," he began, his voice faltering. The king, the tyrant, the warrior struggled for words. "I'm so sorry. I saw a prophecy, a tool, a cure. I was so blinded by my duty, by the wither, that I didn't see you." "I know," she said quietly, looking at their joined hands. "It's hard to see a person when you're looking for a savior. You were never a weapon," he said, his silver eyes intense. "You were the one all along. I was the fool. I was the one waiting in the shadows, not to claim you, but because I was afraid. Afraid of me. Afraid of this. Afraid of the bond the prophecy said you would be, my silver heart. I thought it meant you were my opposite, my weakness. But it meant you were my heart, my conscience, my strength." He raised her bandaged hand to his lips, kissing the linen, a gesture of such deep reverence that it made her tears fall. "Gavin," she whispered, a tear slipping down her cheek. "He died," Darius said solemnly. "He died a pack member. He rejected you as a mate, but in the end, he accepted you as his queen. He redeemed himself. And your sister?" Maya asked, her voice trembling with fear. Darius's face broke into a rare, breathtaking smile. "Dr. Quinn," he called out. The doctor appeared, her face tear-streaked but glowing. "She, her wolf. It's back." She woke up. She asked for soup. She's her." Maya's song hadn't just reached the hall. It had echoed throughout the entire citadel. It had healed the West Wing. Maya let out a sob of pure, unadulterated relief and collapsed into Darius's arms. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her, not like a valuable asset, but like she was the most precious thing in the world. "It's over," he whispered into her hair. "No," Maya said, pulling back her eyes, clear and strong. "It's just beginning. No more Omega. No more victim." Maya said, her voice steady, yet carrying the weight of everything they had been through. "The wither is gone, but the world is broken. The packs are shattered," she continued, her gaze focused, unwavering. They need more than a king." Darius looked at her, understanding washing over him like the first rays of dawn. "They need a queen," he murmured, the truth finally dawning on him. "They need us," she corrected, placing her bandaged hand over his heart. He covered her hand with his own, a silent promise passing between them. "Maya Blackwood, my mate, my queen, my silver heart," Darius whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a kiss of passion, nor one born of desperation. It was a kiss of promise, a kiss of healing, a kiss that sealed the prophecy not of sacrifice, but of unity. The girl born under the blood moon, the curse of the Clearwater Pack, had found her place. She wasn't a key. She wasn't a weapon. She was a queen, and her reign was just beginning. The blood moon, Omega became the Silver Heart Queen, proving that true strength isn't defined by the power you're born with, but by the choices you make in the shadows. Maya's song had healed her people, but it was her courage that healed her king. What did you think of Maya's journey? Do you believe Gavin truly redeemed himself in the end, or was it too little too late? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me in this story. If you love the drama, the twists, and the emotional journey, and you want to see Maya and Darius rebuild their world, please show your support by hitting that like button. It really helps the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. Share this video with a friend who loves a good werewolf romance. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.